Our guest on This is America and the World is Jose Cuisia. He's the ambassador from the Philippines to the United States. We wrestled with broadcasting this program since our interview took place before the devastating typhoon hit the country and was not the focus of our conversation. As you know, 2 million Filipinos have directly felt the impact of the typhoon. Hundreds of thousands are homeless, and thousands are dead. The pictures tell the story of devastation and heartbreak about people who have lost everything and have no place to go, and families who have been torn apart forever because of the deaths of parents, children, and friends. Perhaps the focus on the Philippines at this time offers us the opportunity to learn more about the country, which should not be seen only as the victim of this horrible natural disaster. So in honor of the Filipino people, we offer this interview with Philippines Ambassador Jose Cuisia. Mr. Ambassador, it is so good to have you here. I have visited your country once some years ago. Absolutely warm, wonderful, welcoming people.
Well, first, it's a pleasure to be here, Dennis, and I appreciate this opportunity to have this conversation with you.
Thank you.
About the Philippines and about our Filipino people.
The Obama administration did what they call a pivot and focused now its foreign policy on Asia. Was that necessary?
Well, I believe that the U.S. has emphasized the importance of the Asian region to the U.S. Because they recognize that it is one of the most robust in terms of growth. And I've heard U.S. government officials who have said that the future of the U.S. is linked to the future of the region.
Uh-huh.
And we certainly welcome the U.S. pivot to Asia. Some, of course, say the U.S. never left Asia. Well, whatever it may be, we appreciate and we welcome the greater focus that the U.S. is given to Asia. And I think it's important, particularly because this region has probably the most promising prospect in terms of the future, because you have two very large nations, China and India. You have, of course, the second and the third largest economies in the world, China and Japan. And of course, Southeast Asia is a very dynamic region, and we are part of that region.
I'm glad that you have framed it as you have, Ambassador, because I think the thinking in most people's minds is that the reason for the Obama administration focusing more on Asia had only to do with China rising.
No, I don't think so. And in fact, the U.S. has constantly emphasized that when they talk about the pivot to Asia, it involves more than the military and security aspect. It also involves the trade and economic relationship. It also involves people-to-people ties. And that has been very evident in what the U.S. has been doing over the past 2 years in their engagement with Southeast Asia.
A large Filipino population in America, huh?
Oh, yes. We have, I would say, the second largest Asian group in America. Considering all the combinations, we have roughly about 3.4 Filipinos and Filipino Americans in the U.S. If you consider, as I said, all combination. For example, Jessica Sanchez, the runner-up at the American Idol, she is Mexican, Filipino American. If you just look at Filipino Americans, it's roughly about 2.5 million.
When you talk about the Filipino people, the culture has been impacted by many different countries, huh?
Yes, as you know, Spain ruled the Philippines for over 300 years. You know, we were ceded to America by Spain in 1898.
That's almost unbelievable. It was sold,
We were,
wasn't it?
yes,
It was
for $20
sold.
million.
$20 million.
Under the Treaty of Paris.
Yes.
We obtained our independence in 1946, but we fought shoulder to shoulder. The Filipino soldiers fought shoulder to shoulder with American soldiers in the 1942 World War II. And of course, in 1946, after gaining our independence, we established diplomatic relations with the United States. We were a commonwealth, a self-governing Commonwealth of the U.S. Since 1935.
And it benefits both countries.
Oh yes, it has been
huh?
mutually beneficial because American businesses have done so well in the Philippines. You have companies like Procter & Gamble, which has been there over 75 years, IBM, Colgate-Palmolive, Chevron, you name all the major companies, U.S. companies are in the Philippines and doing very well. The largest investors are Americans, are American firms. Our foreign direct investments, at one time, U.S. has had about $5.3 billion in terms of foreign direct investments.
You have a population which is close to 100 million people?
Roughly about 94 million as of the 2010 census. It's probably close to 100 million now.
Wow. Let me take a little break, Mr. Ambassador, and tell the folks that I'm talking with the ambassador from the Republic of the Philippines to the United States. Jose Cuisia is his name. Jose Cuisia, did I pronounce that correctly?
That's right.
We're going to take a little break. On the other side, we'll continue our conversation, learn more about the Philippines. This is America and the world. This is America is brought to you by the National Education Association, the U.S.-China Education Trust, and the F.Y. Chang Foundation. The League of Arab States, representing 350 million people in 22 member countries. The Rotondaro Family Trust. The Embassy Series, uniting people through musical diplomacy, presenting international artists in diplomatic settings. And Ventana Productions, television facilities, editing, and distribution services. Mr. Ambassador, it must have been so disappointing because of our government shutdown that President Obama was not able to visit. And then Secretary Kerry was scheduled to visit in his stead, and weather came about.
That's right.
What was on the table for discussion then, and what's still on the table for discussion now?
Well, we hope that the visit of President Obama and eventually Secretary Kerry would allow us to showcase the breadth and diversity of the relations between the Philippines and the United States. We were, of course, going to discuss different dimensions of that, the alliance that we have, so that would, of course, cover military and security aspects. We are also going to talk about how to strengthen our trade and investment relationship, how to enhance further our people-to-people ties, how the U.S. could assist the Philippines, particularly in terms of humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, because, as you know, we experience man-made disasters and natural disasters very, very regularly.
Vulnerable.
We're quite vulnerable because we're part of this Pacific Rim of Fire, a recent earthquake that we experienced with a magnitude of 7.2 on the Richter scale caused tremendous damage to two areas, the southern part of the Philippines.
So it's earthquakes, it's typhoons,
that's right.
Flooding.
So that was part of this plan to take up all of these issues with the President Obama and eventually with Secretary Kerry. but that didn't happen.
If President Obama can't go there, will President Aquino come here?
President Aquino actually came last year in June 2012, and President Aquino, in fact, extended the invitation to President Obama to come to the Philippines.
Well, we hope he comes back.
Oh, yes. We were assured by President Obama that he plans to be in the Philippines. He didn't indicate when, but he said before the end of his term.
Good.
That's a fairly
good. Yeah, that's a wide window.
Wide window.
That is a wide window.
But we're hoping, though, that he will come earlier rather than later. So we hope sometime in 2014.
Philippines, it's an island country, isn't it? Or a country of islands?
It's an archipelago. Yes, it has 7,107 islands, 3 major island groupings: Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Manila, which is the capital, is in Luzon. It is the most populous of the 3 major islands. Cebu City, which is one of our most progressive, export-oriented cities, is in the Visayas. And the largest city in terms of area is Davao, which is in Mindanao. But the least populated of the major islands is Mindanao. However, it has tremendous potential. And the recent signing of the peace agreement, or a framework agreement, which hopefully will lead to a peace agreement, will open up opportunities for both local and foreign investors, because Mindanao has tremendous resources, mineral resources. We have very fertile agricultural land, huge areas for planting different crops. It's hardly visited by typhoons. So there are tremendous opportunities.
So what is at the basis of the economy of the Philippines?
Well, agriculture still accounts for about 11 to 12% of the total GDP. Industry or manufacturing accounts for about 31%. But the biggest would be the services sector. 57% of GDP is accounted for by the services
Now,
sector.
when they say services, what are they talking about?
Well, it includes, of course, the business process outsourcing, which is one of the fastest growing industries. We've been growing over 20% in each year. We have quite a number of American firms, actually, in that business process outsourcing. Most of the banks, for example, have backroom operations that are being done in the Philippines. However, we're also moving to higher value chain because we're doing medical transcription, legal transcriptions, insurance claims are now being processed in the Philippines. So this industry will probably employ about 1.3 million by 2016.
Whoa.
Right now we're at about 700,000 employees, and we're generating about $13-14 billion, and by 2016 we expect it about $25 billion.
The president is very popular, isn't he?
Yes, he enjoys very high ratings,
and
both approval ratings in terms of his performance, as well as trust ratings, over 70%, 73%, 74%. It is unprecedented.
So good governance is...
Well, his mandate of good governance is good economics has actually proven to be a very successful in terms of the strong economic fundamentals that we have, that we now see in
Yet
the
on the other
Philippines.
side of the coin, Mr. Ambassador, there's a lot of poverty there, huh?
Well, that is one of the challenges, because while we have been growing quite well over the last 2 years particularly, we've averaged over 6%, 6.6% in 2012, and this year, where the last 4 quarters have been over 7% per quarter GDP growth, the highest in Southeast Asia.
Whoa.
Unfortunately, the benefits have not trickled down, and this is why the president is emphasizing inclusive growth, which means that we should ensure that those benefits trickle down
How do you
to the
do
lowest
that?
income
How do you
groups.
do that? How do
Well,
you do it?
one is to ensure that the lowest income groups get educational opportunities, because
Education is the key.
education is very important. So he has allocated very substantial resources for the education sector. The education sector gets the biggest portion of the annual budget.
Isn't that great? Isn't that terrific?
And so, because we feel that by creating jobs, that's the fastest way of getting the poor people out of poverty. So if you give them educational opportunities, then they have much better chances of getting good jobs. Health is also being emphasized because they want to make sure that these young people are healthy, that they can actually go to school. Because in the past, that was one of the problems. Their attendance in school was not very good because they're constantly sick. Kids were malnourished.
Yep.
And that is being addressed.
That kid can't learn.
Exactly.
If
So
they go
just
to school
the 3
hungry, yeah.
years that the president has been there, there's been a very significant increase in terms of school attendance. It's now 96%. It used to be less than 85%. There's also regular visits to health clinics. So absenteeism is much less because of health problems. And then there is a program which is called the conditional cash transfer, which gives the poor families allowances for as long as the kids are in school.
Oh, that's a good.
And that they visit these clinics, rural health clinics regularly.
So that's a great incentive,
And
isn't
that
it?
way, they're provided with funds to help them live a decent life, but they must make sure that the kids attend, because they want to make sure that these kids will have a better future.
You know, when I look at education in America, especially sometimes in the inner cities, sometimes the children don't have the support of the parents, not so much that the parents are negligible, but maybe the parents are not educated themselves,
Right,
you know,
right.
to even, you know, read them a story or help them with their
Yes.
homework, or those, because
Yes.
the family is very important
Right,
in the
right.
Philippines, isn't it?
Well, yes, that's one of the
Culture,
values.
yeah.
Family value is very,
Yeah.
very strong among Filipinos. And you see that even among the Filipino Americans here.
Yeah.
They carry that kind of trait with them.
Yep. But it's generational. You have to bring
yes. Oh,
generations
yes, yes.
along.
That's right.
Absolutely. Now you, it said something when we were talking about the poverty piece. Your background is in banking and insurance,
that's right.
and also social
Social
security.
security, yes.
And I wanted to tap into that a little bit because so we went through the government shutdown.
Yes,
President Obama couldn't come. You know, he was here.
yes.
So you're a seasoned veteran. When you look at that the government was brought to its knees, close to, how would that have affected the world, and how you must just shake your head?
Well, yes, you know, that was being watched by all of us, because of
All over
course
the
all over
world?
the world, because as we had indicated in one of these discussions we had among the ambassadors and a think tank group, we were saying that, you know, in today's environment, everything is live. I mean, you can watch TV 24 hours a day, and so while things are going here, they're being watched in the Philippines, in Singapore, in Indonesia, all over Asia. So people were watching what's going to happen, and we were of course concerned, because the U.S. after all is the driver of growth in the global economy, and with the U.S. slowing down, its economy slowing down, obviously we were all quite concerned, and we were hopeful that the shutdown would not last very long. We're hopeful that there would be agreement between the two parties in terms of increasing the debt ceiling, or ensuring that the U.S. does not incur a default, because that would have catastrophic impact.
What would have happened?
I don't even want to think of what would have. I think, because if you have default, then of course people would have probably dumped whatever the dollars, as some were predicting that people would get out of they would. But where will they go?
Yeah.
You know, that's the question that many people raise. I think of course the U.S. Credit rating would also be affected. There would be further downgrades. The U.S. government will incur huge costs in terms of borrowing. People would not even be willing to lend to the U.S. The traditional creditors of the U.S., as you know, China and Japan aired their concern to the U.S. government, and they're the biggest, among the biggest creditors.
Have we
of the
learned our
United
lesson, or
States.
do you think that when we get to January and February, there's going to be more
Well,
game playing?
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful.
You are
because
good, yeah.
I hear the statements by congressional leaders that it should not happen again, and I am very hopeful.
Your mission here in the United States, how do you see it, and what occupies your day-to-day activities?
As ambassador, I'm here to try to, of course, contribute to enhancing the national security of our country, and we do this because through these agreements that we have with U.S., the military agreements that we have, and we're currently discussing with the U.S. a framework agreement to how to enhance that military alliance further. Second is to, of course, strengthen our trade and investment relationship with the U.S. And third, we try to promote the welfare and protect the interest of Filipinos and Filipino Americans living and working here in the U.S. In terms of the military alliance, as I said, that's important to ensure also peace and stability in our region. And this is why I say that that's one of my most important responsibilities here in the U.S.
All major countries over there, talking about the Philippines, talking about Japan, we're talking about South Korea.
Yes.
They all have these island disputes with China. Is it really about territory, or is there something going on underneath that we should know about? Are they symbolic in a way, or?
I think each country looks at it differently. As far as we are concerned, we want to ensure, we want to have peace and stability in there. We respect the rights of our neighbors, and we expect them to also respect our rights. We believe that these disputes should be settled on the basis of a rules-based system anchored on international law, and that law is the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. And we hope that all countries will adhere to that. In ASEAN, we have what we call a declaration.
ASEAN meaning?
ASEAN would be Association of Southeast Asian Countries. And we have an agreement with China called the Declaration on Conduct of the Parties, which was signed in 2002. And unfortunately, we believe that DOC has been violated by China because of their continued presence of Chinese military and paramilitary vessels in our exclusive economic zone. That exclusive economic zone is provided for by UNCLOS, or the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. And until today, they have these Chinese vessels right in our doorsteps. So we have expressed our concern, and we have in fact brought a case against China to the Arbitral Tribunal on the Law of the Sea. We believe that this is a peaceful way of resolving this dispute, and we are hopeful that that tribunal will rule on our request. We're expected to submit our memorial by March 30, 2014. Whether China participates or not in the arbitral proceedings, it does not matter, but we hope that they will for them to give their side.
Mr. Ambassador, we're coming just at the end of our time. I just want to say once again, I've been to the country. It's just an absolutely beautiful country.
Yes.
It is so warm and welcoming from the people, and we certainly hope to go back and visit sometime.
Yes, we hope you will.
Maybe do some programs there. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
And we would certainly welcome you and your crew.
Thank you.
And we are sure that if you spend a little more time there, that you will find for yourself that it is truly more fun in the Philippines.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you
for the
Dennis.
education, a wonderful
Oh, it's
conversation.
my pleasure.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure.
For information about my new book, The Chance of a Lifetime, and online video for all This Is America programs, visit our website, thisisamerica.net. And now you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. This is America is brought to you by the National Education Association, the U.S.-China Education Trust, and the F.Y. Chang Foundation. The League of Arab States, representing 350 million people in 22 member countries. The Rotondaro Family Trust. The Embassy Series, uniting people through musical diplomacy, presenting international artists in diplomatic settings. And Ventana Productions, television facilities, editing and distribution services.